You're listening to End of the Road in Michigan, the podcast where we take you down forgotten trails, quiet lakeshores, and places where the past still echoes. Today's episode heads offshore, to the cold, dark waters of Lake Huron. Just beyond the beaches of Port Austin, Caseville, and Harbor Beach, lie the broken bones of ships lost to time, wrecks that still sit on the lakebed, holding stories that were almost forgotten. While many know the story of the Edmund Fitzgerald, fewer realize just how many vessels met their fate closer to home, off the Thumb Coast. Let's bring those stories back to the surface. Why so many shipwrecks in this one corner of the lake? The Thumb has long been one of the most dangerous stretches of Lake Huron. Back in the 1800s and early 1900s, shipping traffic was heavy. Great Lakes steamers, schooners, and barges hauled lumber, coal, grain, and manufactured goods from Duluth to Detroit, Chicago to Buffalo. But this wasn't easy water. The coast here is shallow, filled with hidden sandbars and rocky shoals. Dense fog was common. Storms could appear in minutes. Ice tore at wooden hulls each winter. Add to that primitive navigation tools and overworked crews, and you have a recipe for disaster. To help, the government built lighthouses like .0 barks and manned life-saving stations up and down the coast. But even those couldn't prevent tragedy. Let's look at some of the vessels that never made it home. The catastrophic collision of the Philadelphia and Albany, 1893. It was just after midnight on November 7, 1893. Fog covered the lake like a blanket. The steamship Philadelphia was hauling coal and merchandise to Chicago. The Albany was moving grain toward Buffalo. In the thick fog, the two ships crashed head-on about 12 miles off .0 barks. The Philadelphia struck the Albany with such force, it nearly split the vessel in two. The crews tried to act fast. The Philadelphia attempted to tow the damaged Albany to shore. But the Albany couldn't stay afloat and slipped beneath the water. Then, the Philadelphia began taking on water and sank as well, just 5 miles from the Thumb shoreline. 13 men died in that collision. Some were pulled down with the ships. Others drowned in the cold, chaotic water. A few made it to lifeboats or clung to debris. Bodies washed up for days. Today, the Philadelphia rests in 125 feet of water. The Albany lies deeper, in 149 feet. Divers still visit the sites, though the silence there is thick. The strange case of the Chakotah, 1906. The Chakotah wasn't sunk by a collision or storm. It simply failed. In September 1906, the wooden barge was being towed with a fleet of others along Lake Huron. It was carrying a massive load of lumber, over 800,000 feet of it. Somewhere near Port Siniluk, the vessel started to list. Water began to pour in. The captain, William Somerville, his daughter Kate, and 5 crew members had no choice but to abandon ship. They piled into a yawl boat and drifted for nearly an hour before the steamer William A. Payne rescued them. But the Chakotah kept floating, a ghost ship, drifting across the lake, full of timber and danger. Eventually, it vanished below the surface. Wreckage, planks, window blinds, furniture, washed up near Lexington for weeks. About 750,000 feet of lumber were recovered and sold. The rest remains somewhere off the coast, lost with the Chakotah. The Jacob Birchie, 1879. Driven to pieces in a storm. The Jacob Birchie was a propeller-driven steamer, one of many that crisscrossed Lake Huron in the 19th century. On September 3, 1879, the ship ran into trouble near Grindstone City. A violent storm rolled in. High winds, heavy waves, and lightning. The vessel tried to outrun it but failed. It was slammed onto the rocks at Lime Kiln Crossing. Luckily, the entire crew and all passengers were saved by the Grindstone City Life-Saving Station. It was one of the earliest documented rescues by these early Coast Guardsmen. The wreck still rests in just 8 feet of water. On calm days, it's visible from the surface. Snorkelers often visit. The remains draw in large fish, adding a strange beauty to the site. The Caprice, Lake Huron's ghost ship, 1967. Some shipwrecks leave behind clues. The Caprice didn't. On July 28, 1967, the 32-foot sloop ran aground on a reef near Port Austin after participating in the Mackinac sailing race. Its owner, George Giroux, got his wife and kids off safely. He dropped anchor, thinking the boat would be fine until morning. But by sunrise, it was gone. Weeks of searches followed. Boats, planes, divers, sonar. All they found was a small piece of fiberglass, maybe from the hull. There were whispers the boat was stolen. Others say it broke apart and was swept away. But no wreckage, no debris, and no confirmed sightings ever surfaced. The Caprice simply disappeared. To this day, it's considered one of the strangest vanishings on Lake Huron. Ghost stories and underwater legends. These wrecks don't just sit quietly. Fishermen talk of strange lights above the lake. Boaters report ghostly voices near known wreck sites. Some claim to feel sudden chills while diving, even on warm summer days. Whether you believe in ghosts or not, these wrecks are heavy with emotion. They're time capsules, grave markers, reminders that the Great Lakes are still wild and untamed. Can you visit these wrecks? Absolutely. Here's how. Port Austin and Caseville have shallow wrecks visible from kayaks and small boats. Harbor Beach offers dive charters to deeper sites. The Thumb Area Bottomland Preserve protects dozens of known wrecks. Museums like the Great Lakes Maritime Center in Port Huron have maps, artifacts, and stories that bring these lost ships back to life. But a warning, it's illegal to take anything from these wrecks. Michigan law protects them as historical sites. Look, don't touch. What's still out there? New technology, side-scan sonar, underwater drones, is revealing more wrecks every year. Some are just offshore, covered in silt. Others sit deep, untouched for more than a century. The cold freshwater preserves them like time capsules. Somewhere beneath Lake Huron's surface, more ships wait to be found. Maybe even the Caprice. Thanks for joining us on End of the Road in Michigan. If you've got your own shipwreck story, or a connection to any of the vessels we talked about, let us know. You can find us on social media or drop a comment on the blog. Until next time, stay curious, stay cautious, and when you're near the lake, keep one eye on the waves.